All right. So I think we are live right now. So can anyone on the chat confirm that you can hear me and see me well? So I think we are. All right. I see no messages, but I assume everything is all right. So welcome everyone. Okay, you can hear me. That's perfect. So welcome everyone. Today we are organizing an event marketed as a International Women's Day event 2024. So welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. Today we have two awesome speakers that will share their knowledge with us. So before that happens, I have a few words to say. So first of all, this event is being organized by GDG Wrocław. If you wish to join GDG Wrocław, please contact us at our social media. It can be Facebook or LinkedIn. You can join wherever your skill level is. GDG is a community open to anyone who wants to help organizing events and join us. Today's event is partner up with Uplover Software House. The Uplover is always looking for talented engineers. So if you are looking for a new job, head on to uplover.com/careers and you should find something for yourself. And like I mentioned, today we have International Women's Day. So happy International Women's Day to all of our ladies on the live stream. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. And if not, I'm sure it will be in a second because we have two wonderful speakers that will share their knowledge. So our first speaker is Samia. Samia, the stage is yours. Yeah, I think you are muted. Samia, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Simon. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. So, I'm going to share my screen. I hope everybody can see my screen. So, yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Samia Ashraf. I am a Google developer expert for Flutter and also a Women Take Makers ambassador. And along with that, I also co organize multiple Google led communities here in UAE. And today, my topic for today will be about Flutter testing. So, we'll be talking about testing strategies for Flutter developers. So, this is our agenda for today. We'll start by discussing why testing is important in the software lifecycle, some common bug types that we can find in our Flutter apps, and the types of testing, manual and automation. And we will also have some types of automation testing. Finally, we will see what is test driven development along with an example, a very simple example. So, starting importance of testing. Now, we all know that we want to deliver a quality application to our users, right? So when we develop an app, we don't want to publish an app without testing, because what it can do is it will give the chance for our users to point more mistakes and come with a bug list. So this can gradually decrease the number of users for the app. Now, there is a very famous quote that I found on the internet. Unfortunately, I am not aware who has written it, but it goes by, every time you find a bug, it's a chance to make the software better. Now, I found this very interesting, because every time you find a bug in your software, you are going to solve that bug, you're going to eliminate that bug, and then you're going to make the software better, right? So this is a very powerful quote, and every software developer must read this and get some inspiration from it, because ultimately we want to ship out apps that are bug free. Now, Testing is a crucial aspect of development in even in the SDLC, that is the software development life cycle. Testing is one of the phases here, along with the planning, analysis, design, implementation, maintenance. Now, testing is very important. It ensures proper app performance because we, the developers, when we write the app, we are all humans and we can sometimes make mistakes. And most of the times, there will be mistakes in the app that we have built. Now, if we are not testing the app and if we push it to production, what can happen is it will give many users different scenarios. So for some people, the app can completely hang. For some people, the the device compatibility will be an issue because users will have devices of different sizes and width, right? So that is the reason why testing is very important before we push our app to production. It will enhance the app performance and ensures app compatibility. That is, when users use it on a mobile, let's say if it's a Flutter web app. Now, when users use it in the mobile, it will have some device compatibility issues, right? So maintaining brand name. So if if you have so let's say if you have an app that has a large database, you want to maintain those users. You don't want them to come across many bugs and ultimately you're going to use that lose that user. So maintaining brand name, if you want to maintain the name of your application, you need to test before you push out every release. So some of the type of bugs that we can encounter is application not responding. Again, it's a very common bug that happens when the features are not properly tested. The second one, I think we all have encountered this one. It's a widget overflow error. This happens when, again, the widgets are not properly arranged. Some more are routing errors. Now, let's say I have implemented a functionality where I want to go from page A to page B. But what happens is in my during the development, for some reason, I have added the code where the app goes from page A to page C instead. Now, if I haven't tested this and I have pushed the app to production, this is going to be a not so pleasant experience, right? Because the user wants to go from app from screen A to B, but in the app it's going from uh, screen A to C. Now, if I had well tested the app, I will encounter this issue when I am testing the app, and I can immediately go back and change the routing from A to C. So, this way, multiple routing errors can be eliminated. Unexpected feature behavior is when, let's say, in my app, I have built an app where I am updating my profile. So, what happens is in my email address, let's say I want to update my email address in the app, and I go to the email address text field. I update my email address, but for some reason your app is not able to connect to the API. So there are some unexpected behaviors because of which the email address is not updating. Again, your user is going to be very frustrated if they are not able to update the email address. So this is a very common behavior. The user will get frustrated. So multiple scenarios like this, where the app for some reason is not connecting to the API, then that is again a bug which can be easily eliminated if tested properly. And there are many such bugs like this which you will encounter when you repeatedly test the app. So, next, let's go to the types of testing. So, the very basic one, which is the manual testing. Now, manual testing is not advisable because, again, it is done by us, humans, the developers, and we can make mistakes sometimes. So, here the testers are humans, And starting cost is very low because obviously it's the humans who will be testing, and there is no automation tools involved. So the rate of errors um, can be high. And also manual testing is only it's not really advised, but if you want to do manual testing, it's only a good option to do it for small scale applications, not for applications that have huge user base. And that is because when we are talking about applications with a large user database, so we have a lot of features going on in that application. So obviously manual testing is not at all advisable there. Manual testing is again time consuming because the human tester is going to sit and analyze every scenario of the application. And if there is a bug, if they are going to raise it, and again once the bug is solved, you will again have to test it to make sure that the bug does not arise again. So it is time consuming and also labor intensive, and it is not for large scale testing. So the very basic form of testing, it's the manual testing. Anybody can do manual testing. Any developer can do manual testing because you will be only analyzing the scenarios in the application. So the next type of testing that we have is automation testing. Now, here we are not talking about human testers. We don't have human testers in automation testing. In automation testing, we will be using automation softwares. And in Flutter, we have a built in Flutter test package that is going to help us with the testing. So the framework has um, built in software for Flutter testing. We will be writing scripts, that is, we will be writing code to perform the automation testing, and it involves starting cost. So in Flutter, we don't really have a starting cost, but if we talk about other software, then to use automation, it will involve a starting cost. And we will be using code to write the automation testing here, and mostly preferred for large scale testing. Again, if I'm building a Flutter application that is for my portfolio, I wouldn't really write the code for this. But if it is for my portfolio, and if there is let's say 100 plus users that are using my application, then I will definitely go ahead and write the code for testing. And again, it also involves how complex is the application. So again, it involves that. So next we have types of automation testing. We have unit testing, widget component testing, and also an integration testing. So unit testing is where it tests a single function, method, or a class. And widget, or also referred to as component testing, is where a single widget is tested, and we write the code that tests one single widget. Integration testing is the complete app is being tested, that is the code written to test the complete app. And again, unit test is where code is written to test a single function, a method, or a class. And we will be looking at an example for the widget testing, where we are testing one single widget. So finally, we have test driven development. So, test driven development means the tests are written before the actual code is implemented, which means you will first, in order to in order to have the TDD approach for, let's say, um, feature one, I'm going to write the test for feature one first, and then I will go back and write the code for it, and then I'm going to run the test again. So this is a very it's a widely used approach, and you will find the TDD, test driven development, in large scale applications. And Ultimately you will have to get used to this approach because it helps in early detection of issues. And that is because when we are writing the test, the feature is not implemented, which means the test will fail. So once the test fails, we know exactly what needs to be implemented. So you go back to the code, you write the code such that the test will pass. And again, when we run the test will pass because we have implemented the code for that feature. And then we are just going to refactor the code so that there is no dead code in our widget. So this can detect the issues early because we already know what we want to test, and we write the code exactly for that. So the chances of raising bugs here is quite minimal. And improved code quality because you will be refactoring the code every time your test runs correct. Whenever the test passes, we will go back to the code and we are going to refactor it. So this way the code quality will be improved and reduced debugging time, because we will not see when you write the code first and then you write the test, you run the test, you will find some ambiguity, then you will go back to the code and correct the code, run the test again, and so back and forth, you are going to lose a lot of time. Whereas when you write the test first, you know exactly what you want to implement. So we go back, write the code so that the test passes. And then in this way, the debugging time is quite reduced and refactoring is quite simplified because we know exactly what we want to eliminate. This is the process. So we have three phases here: the red phase, the green phase, and the refactor phase. First, write a test that fails. So that is the red phase. Green phase is where we write the code to make the test pass, so that the feature is implemented and also the test for that feature passes. Then we go back and we eliminate any kind of redundancy. So if there is any code that is not really required in that feature, we go back and we eliminate that. So we have the code for that feature, we have the test code for that feature, and then there is no dead code in our app. So this way, it eliminates debugging time, and also code quality is improved also. So let us now look at an example where we will be, so the default Flutter app, which is to increment the counter by 1, we are going to write test where we will be incrementing the counter by 2. So let me head over to my VS Code. Now, this is the default application. I haven't really done anything in the main.dart and also the widget underscore test.dart file, which you will find in the test folder. This is the place where we will be writing all of our tests in the Flutter app. And by default, there is a test written. So the default behavior, which is to increment the counter app by 1, the so let me just rerun the app. So here the counter value is incrementing by 1 every time I press the plus button. And we have a test which is written for that. So when I run this, everything works perfectly fine. Now what we will be doing is I will be writing a test to increment the counter by 2. Now in the TDD approach, what we would do is first, so I can just copy and paste it because this test increments the counter by 1 and I want to increment the counter by 2. So instead of 1 here, from 0 to 2, and here, so I'll tell you what exactly is happening here. We'll be building our app and trigger a frame. So tester object is what will be used to write the test code. And initially, when we enter the app, there will be the text 0, which is here. And it says when the button plus is tapped. So when the button plus is tapped, the number should be incremented by 2. This is what the test here is says. So let me say that again. When the widget is built, the text 0 appears in the screen, and when we tap on the icons.add button, the text should increment by 2. So this is our test that we have written. Now, when I run this, obviously this is going to fail because I haven't added the code where the button should increment by 2, right? So this test is going to fail. Now, let me go back to the code. This is my green phase. So I'm already done with my red phase where I have added the code to where I've added the test code to increment by 2. In my green phase, I'm going to only alter this line, and I'm going to say increment the counter by 2 instead of 1. So now when I run the application, we will see here that when the plus button is pressed, from 0 it goes to 2. So now when I run my test, we no longer see that error because the test now passes. And obviously we can go back and clear out some code here. So this is the code for the test code to increment the button by 2. Now, this test case is obviously going to fail because this increments the counter by 1, but the code that is here is for the counter to increment by 2. So this is how we can write the tests and also use the test driven development principles to enhance our Flutter testing. So let me go back to here. So yeah, that was the example to increment the counter by 2. Test fails is where I had written the test code. Test passes is where I went back to my code. I modified my code to make the test pass. And refactor is where you can eliminate some code which is not really required. And if you don't have any code that does not need to be eliminated, then you can leave it as it is. So in this way, what happens is so this is how you can promote the improved code quality and also reduce the debugging time. And this also helps in early detection of issues because you know exactly what needs to be coded. So this will detect the issues early. And that was all for testing strategies for Flutter developers. You can, these are my socials. You can find me here on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Medium. I also have some articles written on Flutter topics. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any doubts on the testing strategies or if you need any help with test driven development. And this is my website. You can read all my Medium articles here. And yeah, reach out to me if you have any if you need any help with the Flutter topics. I will be available for that. So yeah, thank you everyone.
Oh, thank you, Samia. Very informative. Do we have any questions? Interesting. So, what percentage of the code coverage do you aim for in your project, Samia?
Okay, so Mr. Philip asks, what percentage of code coverage you aim for in your. So I'm assuming you're asking me how much, like, what is the average of the test that is written in my for my projects. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I have understood. But yeah, so I think every feature needs to be tested separately, because even if it's a very minor uh, feature, like the one that I said previously, which is to update the email address, where in some cases the API does not connect for the feature. So that's the reason I would recommend to write a use case, a test case for every feature. And yeah, I would say write a test case, write the test for each and every feature in the for the Flutter application. Yes.
All right, sounds good. Any other questions? If not, we have another speaker coming up in 20 minutes, I believe. So the speaker is not with us yet, but I believe that she will join very soon. So if you don't have any more questions, let's take a short break and then come back in 20 minutes for the second talk. All right, so we are back live. I hope everyone is here, and our next speaker is Yogita. I hope I read that right. So, Yogita, the stage is yours.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, everything all right?
Hello?
We can hear you.
Yep. I'm trying to present my screen, but it's processing. Can you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Just a minute. Just a minute. Sorry, sorry for this
Yeah, no
inconvenience.
problem. Anything you need? I think I can see your screen, so everything should be all right.
Yep. So sorry. First of all, sorry and welcome everyone. Happy Women's International Day and thank you here for joining me today. I'm Yogita Kumar. I'm Flutter GD and I'm a Woman Tech Maker Ambassador. Also, I'm a Flutter mobile application developer at QCS. I enjoy creating the mobile applications using the Flutter. I mostly use the application in the Android and iOS. Also, I'm very passionate about giving back to community, and that's why I comes into this field. And as a GD, I'm part of this program, Google program, wonderful program, and I also enjoys the writing the blogs on the Medium. If you please see, go connect over there, and you can get to know more. So today we are going to see the cleaner Flutter code, how to write with the Dart 3. And everybody knows Flutter released the Dart 3 version in May 2023. So we are going to look into detail. So I'm going to cover the biggest three features over here. that is the pattern records, exists to checking. Also, I will do showing some examples of code before and after being refactored with the Dart 3 features. Okay, so this is our outline for today. Let's go, let's proceed. So, in today's talk, we will cover um, one application. We consider one hypothetical app, and suppose it is from social media. It has post, and users can like and comment on those posts. There is no demo or live coding. This is just a context of data we are going to look for. So I will use this common workflow to talk about these features, as we everybody knows that we need the JSON data. We need any backend data to process to build our app. So here we are going to consider the JSON data. When we get that JSON data, we need to validate that JSON data, right? Validate JSON data, it contains many features. Validation of JSON data means we are going to look for the specific keys, properties, whether they are present into that JSON data or not. And then we will turn it into the type object, right? And also, once we verify this everything, then we display this type object in our UI model using the Flutter widgets. So for now, this is our sim- this is our simple class hierarchy, and it's pretty simple. Class post and class user. As we are considering the social media app, we are going to have post and the user who is posting this post over here. First, first we will take a look at the couple of examples of using the pattern matching specifically to validate some JSON. Okay, so how to do that? Let's define JSON validations quickly. Okay, so JSON generally includes any of the three following tasks, right? Ensuring the properties, the keys that you care about exist on the data. We are building the social media app, so what we expect, we need some post, right? So that we need then user who is posting it, the likes or comments, whatever we are getting on that data, we need this all data over there. Ensuring the data types for that property, right? Whatever we are right to write coding, is very important to ensure that we are getting that correct data type. So, and also if this all cases matches, then we will look for the exact value that we expect. This is the sample of our data. So actually, if you see this sample, you will say this is not a JSON data, this is just a map. Yes, you are right, this is just a map, this is not a JSON data. This is the output of map, JSON decode. This is the output of JSON decode that we are using. But for now, we need to consider the data part that we are going to discuss in this talk. So this is the JSON we are start out with, and this data represent the post type, right? The post on the social media. This site has the multiple post type, like images or text, right? Either you can just post a text, or you got a nice click, you are going to post that picture, that is okay. This is an image post. This specific example here is the image post, and it also has the data related to user who posted the image, right? Let's see how we will validate this data. Now, before Dart 3, we used to validate the JSON like this, right? How we are validating the JSON? When we get the JSON, we have to write the method, whether it is contains the specific key, whether it contains key means property, rather. So it contains the property that we expect, that we want to show in our UI part. It contains that or not. And also for each property you expect, you check if the key exists and then the value isn't null, right? And that the value is of the correct type is very important. Otherwise we always get the compile time errors, runtimes error. Now, for example, here we make sure that the key likes exist. JSON contains key likes. We are making sure key likes is exist. That the value for that key is not null. Okay. And also the likes is an integer value. Likes never going to be, either it can be 0, but it never be -1, right? So it should be the integer. So we need to take care of these things. Finally, you repeat this process for the data under the user key, right? Because there in many JSON format, you see there are the nested data. Some JSON format has the object, that object maybe has the list of object and everything. So you have to continue this process. Now, to make it easy, we have the pattern matching. Let's see the pattern matching. And this is the simple one. This is how you implement the simple validation with patterns. That long, lengthy process becomes short over here. Okay, so let's see in the detail. Now, this highlighted part over here is the actual pattern. A patterns represent the shape of value that you want to compare to an actual value. Okay. In this case, we want to match the shape of variable called JSON. If you see our in the very first line, JSON is highlighted. We are going to match this value against the pattern. This does everything that the previous example does. Okay. So in previous example, you must be seen that JSON contains key likes yet. And now here you can see that likes integer underscore. What is that underscore? Is the wildcard character. Okay. This wildcard character will help you to denote that we don't care what value is that, but we want this value should be the integer. Okay. Can you see these 3 lines of code just replaced with the 1 line of code just because of the Dart3 feature pattern? And you can see that submap under the user key. Now, in the previous example, we have to type that lengthy code matching the keys property for the parents class and then the nested object inside that. Now it gets submap under user key and also recursively validated in this pattern. It's nice, isn't it? We don't have to do much coding by ourselves. It's here. Now, finally, I want to point out the new if case state syntax over here. If case syntax allows you to match against a pattern in an if statement. Okay. So patterns are generally associated with the switch statements, which we will see shortly. But if case statements are handy when you only need to check against a single pattern, which is common for the JSON validation, right? Let's see the more pattern matching tricks. Imagine our requirement has changed. As you know, PO always comes to the developer and they always keep asking for the new changes. Now we have the text post and image posts, which extend the base class. That base class is post. Okay. And we declare this post class as a abstract class that you cannot insert in this. So let's check further, and our other class is user. So now the incoming JSON now looks like this. It contains 2 different object. Okay. Object types, they are very similar. what is the change over there? The text post and the image post type get changes with the two variables. One time we get the image post, or other time you get the text one. And if you see the second parameter over there, image path, and in the text post it replaced with the post body, right? We will need to adjust our pattern matching to handle these both types, right? Because our keys are changing over here. Recall that this is what the code looked like originally without pattern, right? We are validating for the keys, JSON validation. We just need to add couple more validation to handle our new object type, right? Then if we add that example, we need to add something like this, which doesn't even fit in the my slides over here. So we have introduced our first OR operator, which is scary. Yes, I feel OR operator is very scary and is totally unreadable when you write this condition by using lots of ands and lots of OR. It's difficult to maintain as we proceed further in our development. So one way to handle this pattern is with the logical OR operator. So how we are going to handle this with the logical OR? We are going to check this. We are going to check against the pattern when the type is image or text, and we will notice that the key post body and image path are missing over here. When using the map patterns, missing properties will be ignored. So we can leave those off and validate them separately. Or we can adjust our if case statement to be the switch expression. What is the switch expression? See, now using this switch expression, we are matching against two separate patterns. We are matching against two separate patterns. How? Let's see. In our example, this is especially useful because we have two different subtypes for the post class, text post and the image post. And we want to return one of that corresponds with the type property of that data, right? This is the most common use case for the pattern matching and the switch expression, returning or operating on the related subtypes with the common ancestor. The next part is destructuring in patterns. We will stick with that example, our social media app example, and show even more feature of patterns starting with destructuring. Now, if you see, if you recall our example, in that we are using the wildcards to match the values of pattern, and wildcard match against any value, right? So as a reminder, in the case of the likes, okay, the like property, the integer we want, we are saying a property called likes must be exist and its value must be an integer, but we don't care what integer value they are holding. And this is very useful, but it's not the only way to handle values in pattern. We can also destructure the pattern if we want to use the values that are being matched. Okay, to show this, I want to update this method rather than validating the JSON in this method and then turning around and calling from JSON. Let's do the validation and object creation in the single method. So this is our from JSON method. In this version of method, I'm still matching the pattern against a JSON object. Returns with JSON in the bracket, that is my JSON object. Yes. And then I'm returning the text post object without calling from JSON because this is the from JSON method. Okay. And rather than using the wildcards, we can use the variable's name for the values. No, there would be the second case for the post image post. This is the example only for the text post. Okay, image post should be the different one, so it is going in the same way. But again, I have the very little space in my slides, so I'm just considering only one example here. So let's go. If the pattern matches, okay, dot will create the variable and assign them to the values that exist in the object you are matching against. Okay, like we are matching from the JSON object, and if the ID matches, it is of the string type, then this ID is stored into the variable. One variable, new variable get created, name ID, and this value is stored into that variable, and these variables can be passed directly to the text post constructor. If you see over there at when the switch statement closes, it returning us the object for the text post, and this object is created using all these variables that get created and which is holding values, and that is called a destructuring. This is all the refactoring we will do on the JSON validation. So let's move on to the Flutter widget codes. Okay, we got data, we validate it, we create the object. Now part it to show our data to user. Let's go. This is how we are going to write the widget part, the UI part. So maybe our code looks like this or something different. It totally depends on our strategy how you're going to write your code. It's pretty standard code, Flutter code over here. So we are just creating the post and then passing it to the text post widgets and the image post widgets, depending on what type of post it is, right? But this can also be improved with the Dart 3 feature. And what is that feature? That feature is the exhaustiveness checking. Yes. So far, we have refactored our JSON validation to use pattern. So code is less verbose and more readable. But the data we are working with is the kind of simple. What if it wasn't simple? It's too complicated, too lengthy, too nested. What is the case then? Suppose project manager come to us. Oh, he always coming to us for the new requirement. Okay, he comes to us and demanded to add a new post type, the video post. Okay, and also we want to give user option to start paying for the extra features. We have to pay money if you want something better. Yes, so we need add another user type, and just in case now the payment comes, the money matters, so we need an admin user to check every activities over here, because after all apps needs admin to works fine. Now the class hierarchy is more complicated and our incoming data is going to be more complicated as well. How it is going to be more complicated? Let's see. Now we are having the type field on our incoming user data. This it is the same example, but if you notice the user get added one more field type. It is the paid user, admin user, or normal user. So the validation portion for our code doesn't change much. We could handle the changes by adding new cases to the switch expression. Just need to add some different cases in the switch, in the same switch statement that we return for the post. Let's see how. The more interesting changes are back in that Flutter code. Let's see what is that. So let's look at the Flutter code again. Now that we have additional post type and user types, we will need additional widget to display these various subtypes. And how we are going to do that? Let's see. Now our example will end up at two more if statements. to return the correct widget. Okay, this code isn't so bad, it's perfectly readable, right? We can easily read the if and the condition and what type of widget it is returning, so it's easy to read. And every and thanks to that collection of if statements, but it doesn't but in case in future it will introduce some problem. Let's see what's the problem. First of all, it seems like I forgot about the admin users. It's new features. While implementing, I just forgot. I implemented the video post for the normal and the paid user, but not for the admin user. And what if the post and the user object don't match any of the cases? The end user will get a gray screen that every developer and every user very well known. Red screen overflow screen for us, but the gray screen for the users. That's very bad user experience. While we could just add another line for the admin user, it doesn't protect us in the future when more post type or user types are added to the app. But Dart 3 give us tools to prevent that in the form of exhaustiveness checking. Dart 3 going to solve our problem. Let's see how. So the exhaustiveness checking refers to a compile time error. If it's possible for the value to enter a switch but not match any of the cases. Of course, this is the only possible if the Dart compiler knows about every possible values of the item being switched over. For example, if you see the first case, in the switch statement, Dart knows that for sure true or false cover every possible cases, like because is true is the boolean variable, and boolean variable can have only two values, true or false. So compiler is pretty sure over there. If you see the second example, okay, so exhaustiveness checking has also always existed for enums. In this second example, the analyzer would ail at you because there is no cases found for the fish or any default case. And as of Dart 3, there are the features that allow us to switch over own custom classes with the exhaustiveness. Let's see how. To take the advantage of this exhaustiveness checking on our custom classes, we have to use new sealed class modifier instead of the abstract. What we have to do? We have to take out the abstract, our keyword over there, and we have to put the sealed. The sealed modifier prevents a class from being extended or implemented outside its own library. Sealed classes are implicitly abstract. So at this point, our code behaves the same. This is this is all sealed means. It doesn't allow me to import a library and add my own subclasses. So when we refactor our code to look like this, Dart is 100% positive that every possible subtype of post is in the same library, and therefore it can tell you when you have missed the type. In fact, the code won't compile if you have missed a type. And because we know that there is no missing types, we do not need to default case, right? If you are covering everything, you are writing code for every possible cases, you don't need the default case. So in the previous example, just comment that video post, and this is the error that Dart gave us. Okay, and in the error, if you read it carefully, it tells you everything. That this is very good. I really like the Flutter. Means whenever I get an error, if you check that error messages, it gives all the explanation where the error found and what is the possible solution. They give the suggestion also. So here the error we will get, the type post is not exhaustively matched by the switch cases since it doesn't match the video post. See, it is telling you which post it is not match. And also try adding the wildcard pattern. Okay. So wildcard patterns, then just like your again default case that you don't care about the value. That's pretty nice, isn't it? So now, of course, with this example, we will need to add the similar switch expression for getting the correct author user, right? But we can do better than this with the destructuring. With the destructuring, let's see how to do that. As the reminder, this is the destructuring example we saw earlier. We are pulling the values out of the object that's being matched against this pattern so we can use those value in the return statement, right? Whenever we have that value, then only create the variable and create the object of type text quotes by using these values. We can refactor the two methods that get the widget to looks like this. Yes, get post widget. We are matching with the post text post against the author widget, then the admin, and then it's nice. There are three post types and the three user types. So there is total 9 use cases, 9 test cases to match against. But here I'm considering only three and the six other six going in the same way. So there is lots of things going on here. So I will walk through it in the pieces. Okay. So let's see. This is an example of object restructuring. This line of code is saying I want to match against any post is type text post and also has the user property of type normal user. Okay, there is new syntax here in the colon, and this is just a syntactic sugar, nothing else. So if you see, these two lines are equivalent. The second example looks like any other named argument dart code. Okay. If you are naming the variable that you are destructuring the same as the property name on the object, the property name can be inferred or left out. As you said, as you expect, the pattern matching algorithm is also smart enough to ensure that we have returned the code that matches against every combination of value. That we are saying about 9 cases, it is making sure that we are going to write for every combination of values. So it works recursively. You could get much more complicated than this with the nesting object. Nesting object always scary. And of course, if I comment this out, the analyzer again gives me error. Right? Yes, of course. And that is for our benefits to get the error fixed and get a nice user experience. Now, in that same example, there is also a new feature called records. This is very, again, the most important features from the Dart 3. And let's see in the detail what is records. So you might notice that we are returning two widgets from this method. Okay, this is the possible, and thanks to another new feature of Dart 3 because of the records. Records are the new collection type that can hold an arbitrary number of elements, and importantly, those elements can be different type. Records are useful for passing multiple values around that are logically linked when would be verbose to create a class, and you can't use the list because you would have to drop the values type, right? This will most before Dart 3 we can write the code which returns the widget, but now we can with the records we can return the more. So imagine the build method of your widget looks like this. We are calling get post widgets. Okay. And then destructuring the results into the two separate variable, which also uses the record syntax. We are going to destructure, and what are the two variables over here? The post widget and the author widget. Before dart 3, we would probably return a column from this method, right? Column, we are making a single widget and then returning it. So that we can return the both widget, the post and the author. That could be the problem though. And what's the problem? What if your build method look like this? You'd end up with the column inside the column, adding unnecessary overhead to your application, right? Of course, there are other options for returning multiple widget, but using record doesn't require you to use the tricks to write unnecessary codes, the tricks behind the curtain that developer always used to do. So record's going to solve that one. Also, finally, we have implemented our separate user and the post type and each render with the separate widget. But, but, the project manager again comes to me and they ask me for the more changes. They have informed us that there is new structure to how the user can comment on the post. Admins can comment on the post, paid user can comment on the post by other paid user, all normal users, but not admin users. Fair enough. The normal users cannot comment on the post at all. No, they can just do the likes. So imagine this is the beautiful app we have created in a social media. So we need to update the comment buttons so that it's only active for the correct user types under the correct circumstances. That's very important for the best user experience. So now we need to know who is currently logged in and who wrote the post that's being looked at. And because we care about the good user experience, we need to consider when user is hovering over it with their mouse and we want to give feedback when the button is clicked. Also, addition to this, and the button should be inactive if the user hasn't entered any task. Yes, that's pretty common. If you didn't write anything, how you can post click on the comment button. So, how should we write this complex logic? We could use if statement and write some code like this. How do you feel by seeing, by reading, by maintaining such a types of code? So, but this isn't a maintainable code, right? If we add another subtype of user that has different rules about commenting, it will be the nightmare to update. Plus, it will be quite difficult to get 100% test coverage against this logic tree. But because our user class is sealed and booleans are exhaustive by default, what's benefit we are going to get? This. We can have the compiler figure it out for us. This logic is still certainly complex and there are still many different cases to match against. But the analyzer will tell you which cases you are missing as you are writing. It's literally impossible to miss a case. Yeah. What happened if you are missing any case over here and we will push that app into the production and the user getting the bad experience. So better in Dart 3, this handles by the compiler and analyzer always keep yelling and do this, do this, do this, you skip this, skip this, skip this, do this, and we are writing the best code, right? So today we covered the biggest Dart 3 feature. If you want to learn more about Dart 3, check out the code lab by scanning this QR code over here. And thank you so much. Here I am. If you want to connect with me, please connect me on the Twitter, LinkedIn. These are the medium links for my blogs. Please go ahead and read some articles over there. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Gita. It was very informative. I really like this presentation. Do we have any questions? Remember, guys, if you have any questions, you can also post it as comments for this video. I believe we can organize an answer to that as well. Oh, we have one question. Do you use interfaces or classes more often?
Interfaces is the best idea. When you need to implement that interfaces, it will give you proper structure, proper binding, that these are the features that you need to implement in your classes. And to when you design your application, the base to be stronger, and this our data handling is going through this all interfaces and classes. So definitely I will suggest the interfaces. I personally use the interfaces while implementing the classes.
All right. Sounds good. Okay, then. Oh, and there is a feedback here that you can go to the link you can see on the screen if you wish to give feedback to this event and to our GDG Wrocław organization. We'll appreciate that and we'll definitely take it into account. All right, then. So I believe this is it for today. If we don't have any more questions, thank you everyone for coming and watching this event. Thank you for our wonderful speakers for sharing the knowledge. Happy International Women's Day and have a wonderful evening and see you next time.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.